What's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Join alongside Tim in Green Bay here to talk some Packers as it's officially playoff season, as we got one more week of regular season left. And obviously, we're going to step right into the playoffs. Packers going to be playing in the first round. So we are officially, in my opinion, in playoff season. Tim, how you doing this morning, big dog?
Great, man. Happy to be here. It's nice to be a week out from the playoffs and know that you're in, right?
It's pretty cool. That was the whole purpose. So let's just go ahead and shift gears here, just to remind everyone who's complaining that the team sucks and we're horrible. And well, we're gonna talk about it all today. But yeah, it's nice, man. 3 weeks left in the season? Pretty much you knew there was a 99% chance you're making the playoffs. Pretty damn good year, in my opinion. But let's do this, man. Let's get things cranked up by giving a quick shout-out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 92, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Just click on the link in the video description and send you to their website, theticketking.com. You can register there as a customer. Go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. All right, well, Tim, we'll just kind of lead the show off with the breaking news here. Kind of cool. Listen, this isn't huge. You guys know I don't put a whole lot of stock in the Pro Bowl, but again, it's awesome to see. Wes Hawkowitz says safety Xavier McKinney, running back Josh Jacobs, and defensive end Rashawn Gary have been selected to the 2025 Pro Bowl games on initial balloting. 7 other Packers players voted alternates. Third Pro Bowl selection for Jacobs, who was in 2020 and 2022. It's funny, when we sign him, it's like, well, we get the 2022 version or the 2023 version of Josh Jacobs. Obviously, we got the 22. And first for both McKinney and Gary. So isn't it funny that all year long people have bashed the hell out of Rashawn Gary? And again, Pro Bowl is not like this big, oh, look, see, he's really good. It's just hilarious. He's never gotten it before. And the year that people were upset about his production, he makes Pro Bowl. That just cracked me up, Tim. But I think it's cool to see some representation here. And listen, it's good for the resume, too, for Jeff Hafley having 2 Pro Bowlers on his defense, right?
Absolutely. And, like you're saying, to the point about Rashawn, it's like we've clearly asked him to do some different things this year with his game. We talked about him being more of a run stopper and really utilized against the run more and not just strictly a pass rusher. And I get why, some people may think that, he's having a down year. I don't personally understand why you would think that, but I can see how you could see it because he's not teeing off and rushing the quarterback all the time like we've seen in the past. And he's doing some other things on that D line. So I'm extremely happy for Rashawn and Xavier McKinney. And you're right, Jeff Hafley having 2 guys, his first year as a DC, you got 2 Pro Bowlers on your defense. That's great for the resume. It's a great point, Clayton. And Josh Jacobs, of course, nobody should be surprised that guy's a Pro Bowler because he's an absolute dog.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And again, with Rashawn Gary, hopefully if you followed along with the show this year, we've mentioned several times, his run defense has been phenomenal. And it was cool that last week Eli Berkovitz on Twitter put a tweet out about it. Because I'm like, okay, it's nice to know, to quote Zoolander, I'm not taking crazy pills over here because I'm watching the tape and it's like, it seems like every run stop we get, Gary's in on that play. And you could tell there was emphasis put on that aspect of this new defense coming in. It all starts with stopping the run, right? And again, he leads the team in pressures. He leads the team in run stops, which are basically, running plays of like 3 yards or less where he's the tackler. So he's had a great year, in my opinion. Is it still a down year? I would say if someone says Gary's having a down year, I agree with that. I do. Because when you pay someone top money, with the overall contract, you do expect to get, production that's like, hey, he should be there in the top 3 in sacks, right? You would think that, theoretically speaking. But that's not how defense works in 2024 and now going into 2025. It's not just about, okay, guys, you're an edge defender. Your only job is to sack the quarterback. It's changed so much over the years that, especially with the run stunting we try to do with the 4-man rush, it just kind of goes without saying, I guess. But again, shout out to Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, and Rashawn Gary making the initial one. Now, here's what typically happens, Tim. Typically, some of these players will drop out of that, and some of the alternates will get put in, right? Like there was one year that Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl because like 4 guys ahead of him decided to drop out. But now they're doing these Pro Bowl games, which I kind of like, me personally. The Pro Bowl got it was just ridiculous. It was not a football game anymore. So I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, you remember the quarterback competition they used to have?
Oh,
Tim?
yeah.
To me, that's what this is. And I used to love that stuff. I remember us being pretty for lack of a better way of putting it. And I would
just you couldn't afford the OR.
Exactly. I would put obstacles in the yard next to my mom and dad's house. Keep in mind, there's only like 20 feet between our house and the house next to us because it's an old coal mining camp top town, right? And I would put like a bucket, one of dad's motorcycle helmets, a garbage can, and then at the end of it, I had a box. So I had to run through the obstacle course and hit the box at the end, throwing the football. It's funny what you did to
keep yourself entertained. I love it.
But anyway, so I kind of like that whole quarterback challenge thing, and that's what these feel like. I think this could be something big for the NFL, the Pro Bowl games. I think it's kind of cool. So again, shout out Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney, Rashawn Gary for making the Pro Bowl. Let's go to the chat here really quick and just see what we got in here. Everybody following in. Appreciate y'all making us part of your morning. If you could, hit that like button on your way in. We got Raider McCreary. Good to see you. Josh Vallantingham, new member here on YouTube. I know everybody, if you're like me, I don't like to have auto subscribe on anything. I want to know, all right, yeah, I will purchase that this month. So Josh Vallantingham re-upping his YouTube membership. Appreciate you, buddy. Raider McCready, good morning, PTA Posse. Good to see you, buddy. We got Anthony in the house. We've got, let's see here, Chris in here. Good to see you, buddy. He says, back to work today. Need to sneak into the supplies room to watch PTA. Go, Pack, go. Chris, you can do that. Just understand, we are not liable to compensate you for the lack of funds once you get fired. Okay, sir. We just need to be on the same page there. All right. No, don't want to mislead anybody here. We got Michael Herman in the chat. Good to see you, pal. Holmes MD1, Mike Berry, everybody following in. Nick McSwain. What's up, Nick? Good to see you, man. Let's see here. Nick McSwain says, good morning, PTA. I like our wide receiver room, but my biggest issue is the drops. They're good, but drops make them inconsistent. Yeah, and I haven't looked at the drops as like a huge deal. We need to go look and see exactly where they rank in the league. Of course, maybe I'm still shell shocked from 2022, Aaron Rodgers' last year, when we led the entire league in receiver drops, right? But Tucker Kraft to me is sure-handed. Everybody all of a sudden thinks that Jaden Reed has a drops issue. We showed you the passer rating when targeted last night. He's second in the NFL, only behind Terry McLaurin. So, I mean, yeah, does it suck when the receiver drops a pass? And what is a drop? There's some fans that say if it hits his hands, that's a drop, right? I don't see it that way. If there's a ball that's off target, and like what happened on Sunday, Jaden Reed had to lay out full extension, it hits his hands, he drops it. I don't put that on Jaden Reed. I put it more on the quarterback in that specific situation. And then when you put on the quarterback, you got to look at the tape and go, okay, was he leading them out of trouble? Was he trying to protect his receiver? There's a lot of things that come into play there for sure. But as far as the inconsistency, I think that's a fair assessment. Don't you, Tim? I mean, they've shown huge flashes. They can be a top receiving core. I think they're still the cheapest, if not the second cheapest receiving room in the entire league. But they could definitely be more consistent. I agree with that.
Yeah, you want to see guys, make those steps to where you're more reliable and consistent, especially, we talked about Wicks having some drop issues. I think he's one of the guys that's kind of turned it around lately and is becoming more reliable as a pass catcher. And we know he runs good routes. Same thing with Reed. And we know Rome's sure-handed, but even Rome had a drop the last game as well. So it is an issue at times because, like Coach Len is saying here, the drops always seem to be at the worst time possible. Always. But I agree with your sentiment, Clayton, that, not every ball that hits the receiver in the hand, is a drop. Sometimes the DB plays defense, and punches the ball out or things like that. What you want to avoid are the ones that hit you right on the numbers, right in stride, and you're not coming up with that. That's a drop for sure. But laid out, diving out, a ball too far in front of you, one behind you on your hip, down at your ankles, and you don't make that catch, it's really hard to be tough on a receiver in those situations.
Yeah, no, it really is, man. There's no doubt about it. And let's see, the other thing too is like with the coverage, everybody all of a sudden thinks our coverage is horrible. I'll put a tweet out and we'll hit it here in a minute. I think we're still third in EPA allowed per drop back. So we're like towards the top. We uncovered the other day, like, hey, if there was a weak spot, it's the pass defense. It doesn't mean the pass defense is bad, though, right? And do you want to look at EPA? Do you want to look at PFF grades? Do you want to look at passer rating when targeted? All those things. Hopefully, you've caught on this show.
We don't like to cherry pick just to prove the point, right?
We like to throw everything into the whole basket and go, okay, let's look at it from all angles. At least we try to. We're definitely not perfect. But yeah, I agree with what Coach said. And Ron Samuel comes in and says they are fourth most drops with 32. So again, that's got to get cleaned up. No doubt about it, Ron. No doubt about it. Let's see what else we got in here real quick before we Watson, remember Watson's drop this season really bad. Yeah. And the thing about that too was like, that was his first drop of the year. Everybody went crazy. Like, this guy going to get your football. It's like, well, that was his first drop of the year.
Yeah.
He might be the most sure-handed receiver on our team.
But again, like Coach Len just said, the worst possible time, right?
Yeah.
You're streaking down the field. You got your man beat dead to rights. That ball's right there. That's terrible. Yeah, that was frustrating.
Yeah. Now here's what I'm talking about too. We got two different conflicting reports. It was Nick McSwain says they're fifth in drops. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can different sites, obviously they're looking at the same plays coming up with a little bit different result. But he says Jayden Reed has 11% drop rate this year. Wicks has 13%. That's according to Fox Sports. Dobbs has 8%, and Packers are fifth. Notice that Watson was not mentioned right there, right? So I imagine he's probably lower than all those guys, I would think, but
yep.
Maybe he's not. But yeah, Dobbs is that's the other thing too. Like, Dobbs is definitely our best man coverage receiver, and Jayden Reed and Tucker Kraft are our best zone receivers. So it's kind of like, and when you look at Watson, if I remember correctly, you don't see Watson stand out in either. He's just kind of Watson no matter what the coverage is. But Dobby is definitely that dude that when a team's going to play two man under like the Vikings did, you just want to kind of lock on him and go and work him in space. And listen, that's going to catch heat from a certain portion of the fan base. That's why Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams did what they did. Back when Tay really took off, teams were trying to play two-man under on Aaron because when they would blitz, he'd burn them. When they play zone, he'd find the soft spot. So when they play two-man under, it's just let's just go ISO game with Devontae. If you try to play man-up coverage on Devontae Adams, he's going to cook you, right? Yeah. So that's why Aaron started locking onto him so much. In my opinion, it got too out of hand on the backside because it was just like, forget what everybody else is doing. Tay, run whatever route you want to run, and I'll throw a dart to you. That's basically how
Tay down there somewhere.
Exactly. So, but appreciate you guys looking up the stats there, both Ron and Nick in the chat. Y'all are awesome, man. Here we go. Ron Samuel, Watson 3 drops in 2 years. His are always memorable. That's it. Wow,
that's what it is. That's such a great point.
He's only got 3 drops in 2 years. Is that can't be right, Ron? That's crazy if it's true. But again, his first pass of his career, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Drop.
Right I swear, Christian Watson's going to have to catch the game-winning tutter in the Super Bowl to get people to forget about week 1 against the Vikings in his rookie year. The one he wants back. It's like, God, it's like 3 years ago.
Yeah, no doubt, man. All right, let's see here. Rail in the chat says, finally subscribe to the PTA Patreon membership. I appreciate you joining the Patreon group, Rail. I try to keep things going over there. It's a little bit difficult because I'm always producing the show, trying to create the show. And sometimes I need to get in the Patreon group and be a little more interactive. But I appreciate you guys joining over there. It's awesome. We did have something that came through. If I could find it here real quick, I want to give a shout out to someone because it was a very nice comment. Paula here. Paula's a new member of their Patreon group, and she said, this is just you notice this is a general chat. We got several chats in there. We got questions for the show. We'll hit those here in a second. But Paula Sheridan says, Happy New Year. I'm new to the PTA Patreon group, but I just wanted to say how much I've enjoyed the PTA podcast this year. Even after a tough loss, y'all explain what happened in a clear, easy to understand, and often humorous way. What's funny is we're not trying to be humorous. We're just a bunch of knuckleheads without excessively dragging Packers players. That's huge. I really appreciate that. Many thanks to Clayton, Tim, Josh, Emilio, and Carly, as well as the people in the chat. You all make a great team and help fans to really enjoy watching our team go back go. So, hey, thank you for the kind words. That's probably the best compliment you can get there, Tim. That's the goal. Tim, what do I say before we go live after a loss for the post-game show every time, man? What do I try to say to everybody?
let's be upbeat, let's be positive, let's try and figure out what happened together. And that's basically in a nutshell, right? Let's look at this as objectively as possible, even though our hearts are killing us after a tough loss, right? Because we're just as emotional as anyone else in the film. We always talk about emotional fans, right? I mean, I'm just as guilty. I know you are. So is Jacob. So is Emilio. We love this team, right? You don't want to see your team losing, but you got to screw your head on straight and start looking at it objectively. And you find a little bit of calm and peace in that once you figure out what the heck actually happened out there, right, Clay?
Yeah. And again, it's when you lean on each other for that, and it's like, all right, the whole purpose is when we go live for a post-game show after a loss, it's like, listen, everybody that's watching this show that's a Packers fan is going to be hurting right now. Let's don't add to that, please. Let's don't create an environment where it's just like the sky's falling. Let's all be toxic. Let's all be toxic together. I can't stand it. I won't name any names, but there's several podcasts, several shows that I used to watch. And I'm just like, I can't do it anymore because they cater to that, right? And I'll turn them on occasionally and this and that. But when you're fanning that flame, where it's just what happens is you might have a reasonable take on, hey, this team is really bad at this point right now. This sucks. And then the next guy comes in and he's further from the truth, further from the truth, further from the truth. Next thing you know, you just got people calling in, texting in, messaging in, just cussing about how bad the team is. And it's like, this is miserable. We wait all year long for football season to start.
Yeah, I'm not going to let anyone ruin it for us.
Yeah. You know? It's going to be over in a few weeks. Hopefully it's not over till February, but it could be over in the first round of the playoffs. And when it's over, we don't have Packer football for the remainder. I mean, you're talking, how many months would that be? It'd be what, February, March, April, May, June, July. I mean, you're talking 7-8 months before you get football again.
Yeah.
And during the season, we're just going to sit here and be miserable. We just can't do it, man. And you can get plenty of that content in other places, what I'm saying. That's not what's going to happen here. So most of the time, let's just say it that way. Greg S. in the chat says, Rasul Douglas was very on all the cornerback stats that you scrolled through last night. I trust Goot to make the right decision with Ja this offseason, though I also trust this show not to suck. I guess I'm just gullible. There you go. Very well said, sir. Very well said. And this cracked me up right here. Greg S. also in the chat said, Emilio told he's driving to see family, but really he's going out to pick this bad boy up. It just
oh, nice
Milwaukee decal on the side. Look at the race car bed in the front yard, boys.
Man, nothing says class like race car bed in the front yard, right? I love it.
Like
maybe some spare parts there too for Emilio. You know, he can always use parts when you're working on the car,
Scrap
right?
That thing out, right?
Yeah.
His fiance going to come home and there's going to be parts to a race car bed in their dining room, right? I remember when I was a kid, there being a motorcycle in the living room in our trailer. I do remember that. That's a true story.
Oh, your pops couldn't leave it out in the rain, right? You gotta bring it inside.
No, the dog stayed out there, but the motorcycle came into the living room, man. Oh, I love it, dude. I wouldn't have been raised any other way. I'm just telling you. But yeah, like he said, though, Greg says, slap a couple Milwaukee stickers on that thing. That's a beast right there, boy. Just be careful, man. The ladies will be all over you driving that down the street. So, all right, Rel in the chat, who mentioned earlier there that he's a new Patreon member. He says, new on Patreon, happy to be here with the Chicago Bears coming up. And I know you don't care about stats, Clayton. What do you mean I don't care about stats? This is what's funny, Rel. For every person that says I don't care about stats, there's a half a dozen going, stats don't matter. I played on the ham. Okay. All right. I'm just going to sit back and not say anything. But he says, Clayton, but Swift has already eclipsed the total scrimmage, but he's about 100 yards shy from 1,000 yards rushing. DJ Moore has 950 total scrimmage yards and needs 120 receiving for 1K. I'm always for beating the Bears, but unless they somehow dominate the whole game, I don't see that happening. But with that being said, I also don't think Matt or Jeff, talking about Matt LaFleur and Jeff Hafley, would be happy with giving up a 100-yard rusher and receiver the last game in the regular season before we potentially have to play Philly or hope Mike McCarthy can help the Packers one more time in his coach tenure for us to play L.A. How do you feel we should attack this game overall as a team? You should attack this game, in my opinion, the way you attack every other game. Every other game. And again, there's some people that are saying you should sit the starters. That's not me. You talk about killing momentum. You talk about adding rust. We seen it with the Colts one year, man. They had one of the best regular seasons. This was back when Peyton was there, I think. They set all their starters. They got kicked in the first round. It was like, boy, you ruined your season by sitting everyone the week before.
Yeah. And this is an interesting spot for the Packers to be in. Normally, we're like, you look at previous playoff years, we're either like squeaking in, having to win to get in, get that last wild card spot. Your final, game or two of the season matters in order to get into the playoffs. Or we've seen runs where we have a bye, or maybe we're a 2 seed or a 3 seed. This is kind of interesting, kind of being teetering towards that kind of middle of the pack. We know that we're in. Are we going to be a 6 or are we going to be a 7? I think if you take your foot off the gas at all, even in a week 18 home game against the dumpster fire Bears of Chicago, you could really screw with the momentum of your football team. If I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm prepping these guys like I would for every other week this season and looking at this as just an important game as any other. And with that being said, though, I think you go up 3 or 4 scores, then you pull your starters. That's my opinion. But I wouldn't be sitting anybody unless we're talking about injuries, right? Hey, if Christian Watson's knee is still not feeling great after that little scare we had, then sit him. That's fine. But Jordan Love should start this game, right? Josh Jacobs should start this game. Our starters should be playing. And come on, guys, it's the Bears. If anything, just get these Bears players and their fans to just shut up. Let's just beat them twice. Let's just beat them twice and let them go back to their world of delusion where they think that they're going to win the North, Yeah.
And listen, they got booed off of their field, their last home game of the 2024 season. I want to put as bad a taste in their mouth as we possibly can the final week of the season.
Yeah,
I want them to question
that reminder of how much they suck.
Yeah, I want them to question every aspect of their roster. I want them to question every aspect of Caleb Williams. There's nothing I would love more than for us to come out and pick Caleb off 3 times because his big touchdown to interception ratio, although he's refusing to throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field, I would love to just see us come out, embarrass the hell out of them, and make them truly question whether they have the right quarterback or not. That's what I'd like to see happen. I think I might like to see that happen just as much as us creating momentum in the playoffs, if I'm being completely honest here. So, again, appreciate everybody in the Patreon group there. Last one from Randy Cleavers. He keeps it simple. What is going on with Ja? That was 7 minutes ago. Here's what's going on with Ja, Randy. He tore his PCL. He tried to come back too early and play on it hurt. Got 10 plays in Chicago. Re-aggravated it. He's had a scope now, and they had to do a clean out. So he is pretty much done until the Super Bowl if the Packers were to make the Super Bowl. So that's the latest on Ja. Is there anything I missed there, Tim? And by the way, I want to say the people that were kind of, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes and this and that, that is now to the wayside. No one's talking about that anymore, which is hilarious because their articles got read and they're good to go now. But Tim, anything else you want to add to this as far as Ja? Did I pretty much sum it up there?
Yeah, I mean, we could just check in with Ja and see what he thinks.
Things could be a lot worse. I could be a Bears fan.
There you go, pretty much. Now, Randy, if you're wanting us to expound upon Ja's future, we've been very vocal here. And I know here's the thing. I'm hitting on it because Randy asked, but I'm going to get messages going, would you stop talking about Ja here? Okay, I'm sorry. But here's the deal with Ja. I think that the Packers should and will go to him this offseason and talk about a restructure. People immediately say, you mean a pay cut? You can look at it that way, but also it means he's going to get more guaranteed money than his current contract has on the books, okay? So you could save cap room, give him more guaranteed money, and you can make it incentive-based as well so he can be the highest-paid corner in the league if he goes out there, plays in all 17 games, makes Pro Bowl, and whatever, leads the league in interceptions. You could add all these incentives or leads the team in interceptions, what have you. So I think that's probably the way to go about that as far as his future. Nothing's off the table, though. They may not touch the contract, reset, let him come back next year. They may restructure the contract. I can see that happen. I could see them looking to shop him if things have went sour behind the scenes, like some of the reporters are kind of hinting at. We'll see, man, But that's my take. If it were me and I was a general manager, I'd go to him and go, let's get you some more guaranteed money. We want you to be a Packer. Let's see if we can save us some cap room along the way. And if he bucks and he goes, no, talk to my agent, I don't want to do all that, then I'm okay with getting rid of him. I don't think he's this piece that we've absolutely got to have. I'm definitely not into that camp either. So, Tim, anything else there, man?
No, I would agree with that. And, there's a big part of me that wants to think that knowing the situation, knowing his health and availability these past couple seasons, I got to believe in my heart of hearts that Ja probably would be willing to restructure that deal.
I think so.
But if not, you're absolutely right. Then you pick up that phone call and you're not calling his agent. You're calling around the league and you're finding out who wants a corner and you're trying to get a trade done, because I would rather free up cap with a restructure than an outright cut. And I would hate to see that happen. I'd rather see Goody go out there and snatch a draft pick and maybe another weapon for us in trade if that's what happens. But I'm holding on to hope that Ja probably is a little more open to reworking that deal, because that was a huge, absolutely huge contract when he signed that. And he knows what this team did for him. And I got to believe that he's open to it.
Yeah. I think so too, and it sounds like he really kind of turned the page last year, after he and Matt LaFleur met. And then if you'll remember early in the season, him and Xavier McKinney starting at camp, right? They were just lockstep. And
Yep.
McKinney actually made a comment. I should have had that pulled up. Since we're on this subject already, let me pull this up. It was just a real quick comment that was made in the locker room. I want to make sure I give credit to the right person who had it here too. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's right here. Give me just a second, guys. I apologize. Should have been prepared for this, but I really didn't think we were going to be talking about Ja again. And it's okay, though. It's not a big deal. All right, here we go. This was Xavier McKinney in the locker room. I believe it was yesterday. And shout out to Dominique Yates, who put this on Twitter.
Shout out to that hoodie holding on for dear life.
It is, man. It is holding on for dear life. So Dominique Yates said, he just quoted Xavier McKinney. It says, Xavier McKinney on losing Jair Alexander for the rest of the season. Here we go.
It's been tough. Obviously, he's dealt with, this injury pretty much all year. And we've wanted him to – obviously, we wanted him to be back out there. But, injuries are a part of the game. So we understand that. We know that he's been working – or he was working to, try to get back. But it's like every time he was trying to, he would tweak it again. So it's a part of the game. And we just try to be with him as much as possible, try to make sure that he was good mentally, because we knew, like, how much it was, or at least I knew how much it was hurting him not to be out there with us, just having conversations with him personally. So, those were, the challenges that he faced. And, I think that we've seen, like, for us as a group.
All right, so if you would
so there's the frustration, right?
Yeah.
There's where the frustration came from. That's why he dodged Wieldy the other day. He seems a little chippy because we're about to enter the playoffs and this guy's not going to be able to play. I mean, it sucks, especially after trying to get back for so long. So, I mean, I think X summed it up right there, man. That's any frustration or any behind the scenes crap has got to be stemmed in the fact that, Ja's been trying week after week to get back out there and all it's done is screwed up the knee more apparently. So wishing him the best here as his off season starts a little bit early.
And in the back of his mind too, Tim, I know he's probably not reading all through social media, but you can bet he hears it at some point. You got some fans saying he's faking an injury. And what do? If you lash out at the fans, then the fans as a group, a larger chunk of the fans come out, who does he think he is coming at us? And now he's the bad guy, right? Yep. So he just stayed quiet. And when you stay quiet, now the rumblings are always something going on behind the scenes. Why hasn't he talked about it?
Yeah, there's not – you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And to Jair's credit, I think you're right, that suspension last year and the soul-searching reality check that happened, you're starting to see him – he's really come into his own as a professional now. And he's still going to be the same Jair and bring that energy and that flair that we love. But I think he's a little bit more grounded now in the reality of being a veteran pro in this league. And he's not going to entertain the craziness at all. And I just hope he's back. I really do. That's my guy, man.
And again, Xavier McKinney, arguably the leader on this defense, the top leader on this defense, coming out and just telling everybody, like, bro, he's tried to battle back from this all year long.
Yep.
Right? Now, it's still a business transaction. So that's why I'm looking at it like can't be on the field. That's the tough part of the game, right? I understand the team going, all right, we can't do another year of if he tweaks it again, if something else happens, sooner or later, you got to look up. And when a player's playing less than 50% of the snaps over a 3-year span, you got to go, maybe we need to make an adjustment here. Maybe we need to look at another option. I don't think that's cold-hearted. I think the business is cold-hearted. But that's why you won't hear me bash a player who holds out for a better contract, because they're trying to get that security, because we know at any moment this could happen and they're gone. So you got to try to see both sides. That's kind of how I look at it. Nick McSwain in the chat says, this is like the only place I can go have a level-headed conversation about the team. Appreciate that, Nick. I know it gets wild out there and others. It's just, I don't know. Again, we're all emotional fans. We just try to be a little more level-headed, and we suck at it. Like, that's what's crazy. Some are saying that we're the best at that, and I feel like we suck at it, because I can't tell you how many times I've went off the rails. Tim's gone off the rails. Jacob, you think Jacob's ever gone off the rails? Jacob's gone off the rails time or 12, right?
Put that name in my mouth right there.
It's funny though. Emilio's probably the calmest of us all. It seems like the Bullard stuff. Like
we'll be losing our minds, and Emilio will be like, "Well, actually, I just looked. They were, and he'll pull numbers. He's even keel, man."
Yeah, he really.
The youngest one on the show too is the most mature. Go figure.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And it's just like the way he handled Bullard. I'm watching the game and I'm really focused on it. Bullard's play. It's like, man, I got to look at the all-22, but I feel like he got burned all day. I think he was, I counted 55 yards and a touchdown that were just him losing in coverage. Right. That's a problem. Immediately. It's like Emilio, when he hears someone go after one player, he perks up and gets defensive. I love that about him. Love it. So, because it keeps it in check. There'll be, over time, we'll find out this was actually the case or this wasn't the case. But in the moment, let's simmer down now, as they used to say on was that Mad TV back in the day? Yeah. But Michael Herman says we have 5 games left. Smiling emoji. That's the
I love it. I love
that
attitude right there. Let's go.
Rail says Matt talked about the 2021 divisional against the 49ers, where we played starters for the first half of the last regular season game and had the bye because we were the 1 seed, then lost. Yeah, the whole first round bye thing, listen, you always want that. If you ask any coach, anybody, would you rather have a first round bye or have to play an extra game? They're going to say, give me the first round bye. But that's kind of a real thing too, man, sitting for a week, and these other teams, you just had a team that, God forbid, let's say you're the number 1 seed, like the Packers were there. It might have been in 2021. I can't remember. But let's say you're the number 1 seed and you just had the number 7 seed come in and knock off, let's say, the number 3 seed, right? Or whatever it is, number 2 seed, whoever they played. They're battle tested on the road. And you've been sitting for a week. That's a real thing. That's a real thing too. So it's just all how you want to look at it. Ron Sample says entering the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak isn't a very good option. That's a great
good point.
Because, listen, you could play the starters and the Bears could beat them.
Yep.
And this is where people, we're 10-point favorites. I checked. We're going to get into the game probably tonight. We'll start to dive into it a lot. But we're 10-point favorites. But, guys, this is the National Freaking Football League, the NFFL, okay? Like, anything can happen. We beat them because TJ Slayton blocked an extra point. And you've already got a portion of a fan base that's creating this narrative, we're just going to blow them out. And there'll be the same portion of the fan base that if you don't beat them by 15 points, hell, look how bad we beat Seattle. And that portion of the fan base was still not happy, right?
Yeah.
I expect this to be a close game. That 10 points, again, this is the last game of the season. I think those guys are going to lay it all on the line out there. They're going to look to win.
And the Bears this is their Super Bowl. This is the Bears Super Bowl. Their whole year comes down to them trying to beat the Packers at Lambeau Field. Don't let it happen, guys. You don't take your foot off the gas, please.
Right. And again, the energy should be the same as any other regular season game, as if the season's on the line. The only difference is if someone is not 100%, rest them, right? If you got somebody like Evan Williams that's dealing with a quad, or you got, Christian Watson, I don't want to see him on the field. It's obvious he's not fully healthy. You're not going to convince me he's 100% healthy, right? If you ask Christian, you want to go out there and play, he'll say, hell yeah, I guarantee you that. Same as those other players. Quay Walker, same thing, right?
Yep.
And that's just something we got to deal with. There's going to be rust from those guys, but you can't march them out there at 85, 90%, them tweak something and you miss them for that's the reason we're in this talk with Jair.
Yep.
If they had shut it down at the moment, went ahead and had the surgery, And again, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure there's more information that was uncovered as time went on, but you got to play this safe from a sense of the injuries. If you're healthy, you go out there and you pretend like this is the freaking Super Bowl on the line, though. That's the way I would look at it. So
absolutely.
Great point, Ron, though, man. The momentum's a real thing, no doubt. Joyce in the chat. But Clayton, like every year, the Bears say they have the greatest team. Talking about in the offseason. Bro, let me tell you something.
The Bears still suck.
I challenge everybody to do this because this has brought me so much joy. When you see one of those crappy takes, it's going to happen. Free agency, you're going to see them. The draft, you're going to see it. It just blew me away how much of the national media actually played into it this year. If you see something like that, just hashtag, okay? Use a hashtag and put hashtag remember this tweet. Now, anything you see, do it. And then when you get to week 6 or 7, or in this case this year, it was like week 8 or 9 when they fell flat on their face. They couldn't do anything. The momentum completely tanked. You just go to your Twitter page and search hashtag remember this tweet, and you got all the receipts you need. And let me tell you, the Bears are the gift that keeps on giving.
Receivos aplenty, as you would say.
Yes, they are flowing like the geese of Capistrano. Like I'm telling you, make sure you do that because it will bring you great joy next season. I promise you that. So I'm just so glad Bill Belichick took the North Carolina job and didn't end up in Chicago. That's the one thing I was worried about. Ben Johnson, if he goes to Chicago, if I'm a Bears fan for a minute, I'm hiring Ben Johnson. That's me. To me, he looks like the next Matt LaFleur. But I would not be surprised if the Bears screw it up. So hopefully they don't get him. Now let's talk about kind of where the Packers are as a franchise. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything in here before we move on, before we turn the page. Yeah, we're good. We're good. And all right, so when you're talking about expectations, right? And again, going into the year, I said 10 to 13 wins. That's kind of how I seen the schedule. Our current roster, we're still an extremely young team, youngest team in the NFL. Jordan Love, that was his first year starting. I think he played pretty well, especially down the stretch. There's a thing called a sophomore slump. Guys, that doesn't just mean your second year in the league. People have got to stop thinking like that. Like, well, yeah, but he's been in the league for 4 years. He's not a rookie. I get you, he's not a rookie, but when you go out there and start and you're actually in the game, two things happen. You get to see how the player reacts to those live reps, right? That's an aspect that's huge. The other thing is teams are going to adjust, and they're going to be able to scout you now. They're going to look at the tape on you and go, here's what he does well. Here's what he does not so well. Let's make him play left-handed, that type of thing. So you get a full year of tape. That's why the sophomore slump exists. It's not that, oh, well, the player just ran out of gas, and in the second year he had to slow down and regroup. No, teams have all this tape on you, and they begin to, scout you and attack you from a specific standpoint. So with Jordan Love this year, if he does have a setback, it's not the end of the world, right? That's kind of how I was viewing this year going in. If I'm pretty sure we'd have to go back and pull the tape, and I don't know what episode it'd be, but we were asked about what's realistic expectations for Jordan. Mine was, you got to forget how much they put on the contract. Guys, the market is the market. Yep. If you want a starting quarterback, you got to pay that amount, or you can just continue to roll the dice, and hope you hit on a Sam Darnold in free agency where everything clicks. But with Jordan Love, I was like 25-10. Give me 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That means you're throwing twice as many touchdowns as you are interceptions. You're going to keep your team in a position to win ball games. He's to me, he is our starting quarterback. Now, am I going to rule out the possibility that in 2 years he's not? No, because we've seen it too many times in the NFL. There's a chance that in 2 years from now we go, he is not the guy. He's regressed and we can move on. That's a possibility. I personally would not put my money on that. But when you look at the team as a whole here, Tim, I want to draw a comparison. We did this last year. Remember we were talking about Brett Favre's first year as a starter?
What the hell is Brett Favre doing here?
I'm in town to play the Dolphins, you dumbass.
Perfect drop. So here was Brett Favre's first 5 years with the Packers. Okay, he came in 1992. Obviously, only had 14 starts because Don Majkowski started the first 2 games, played in the first 2 games, started the third, broke his ankle, mangled his ankle. I think it was against the Bengals. And then Favre came in and played the last 14, right? The Packers that year went 9-7, okay? In 1993, Favre is now the starter. Hey, we got our quarterback, right? They went 9-7 and made it to the divisional round, okay? In 1994, the next year, they went 9-7 again, made it to the divisional round. In 1995, they went 11-5, made it to the conference championship. And then in 1996, they went 13-3 and they won the Super Bowl. So as great as Brett Favre is, and you guys know I love Brett Favre. I'm a big Brett Favre fan. He's one of the reasons why I became a Packer fan so quick in the early 2000s. Like, this dude is not going to miss a game. He loves his teammates. He's going to put it all on the line, right? It took him his 5th year being with the Packers to win a Super Bowl, okay? This is Jordan Love's 2nd. And when you compare their first year, Jordan Love's first year as a starter, he went 9-8, and they got beat, or they won the wild card round. They got beat out in the divisional round. Look at the comparison there, Tim. Like, seriously. His first year starting, full year as a starter, 1993, Brett Favre, 9-7 divisional round. Jordan Love, 2023, 9-8 divisional round, right? Same amount of wins. Now, 2024, this year, there's one game to play. Jordan Love's 11-5, and they're in the playoffs again. Look at that. So we're in year 1994 right now, and we're already ahead of the curve. That's kind of how I'm looking at that. Now, you could say that's the wrong way to look at it, Clayton. That's cool. We can agree to disagree. This is how I deal with expectations in my mind. I don't just assume a team, a player, a group, coaching staff is going to do something that's never been done before or is so rare, right, that I create unrealistic expectations. That makes sense, Tim?
Absolutely. Like Michael Herman says in the chat, watching those 93 to 96 teams rise from the ashes to greatness was magical. It sure was. Such a good point. You could literally see, you could feel the change in energy when you saw the kid from the Kill come out there and take over, because people always forget, the Magic Man, Don Majkowski, was that dude, before Brett got here. We hear about the Pack being back and we attribute that to Brett Favre, but you can't, gloss over the fact that Don Majkowski had us, playing good ball up until he got injured, and thank God we had Brett Favre come here and do what he did. It was a little shaky there at first. We all remember that first couple of plays when Brett came into the game. And, but it's true, like the energy shift and the excitement in the fan base, it just went through the roof at that point. And you could see, year after year, them knocking on the door, getting closer and closer. You knew it was coming. And sure enough, in 96, we got it done.
Yeah, definitely, man. Let's see here. Nick McSwain in the chat, kind of off topic, but he says, doesn't Watson have a bruise? Would playing more re-injure himself? ? Yeah, I haven't got the details on that specific bruise. I think that's what is that what Holmes is saying, or is he being sarcastic?
Yeah. No, that's so we've got an actual doctor.
Here we go.
So osteo, whatever word.
This is how I would say that, Tim. Bruises are really painful.
Osteo anything is bone. So bone bruises are very painful. So I think what Holmes is saying is it's not about like a re-injuring factor. It's about, how much that pain level is and how effective can you really be having a bone bruise like that.
Yeah. And everybody wants a player to play hurt, right? Until they play bad. And then it's, well, he shouldn't have been playing. Like that's immediately the focus gets shifted, right? So we'll continue this conversation into hour 2. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for that. We appreciate y'all. All right, welcome into hour 2. So yeah, continuing there with the Christian Watson comment. It's that age-old argument conversation of, do you put a player out there at 85% knowing he's going to underperform? And in this case, it doesn't sound like you're risking re-injuring it, but you're taking reps away from, a Bo Melton, someone like that, right? Malik Heath, who caught that what a great touchdown catch he had. Albeit he only had one grab. I don't want to overblow it, but like it was his option. That was his only choice, right? It was like, hey, all right, let's go to Malik Heath here at the end of the game to try to score and make this a 2-point game. And man, he did that against the Giants last year too. You remember, Tim, when they tied it up? That catch he made at the goal line? I think he got
dog.
Yeah.
He's a dog. He just, he ended up in Green Bay in a talented wide receiver room, and it's just tough to see the field. But I love guys like that. Like I said, he sit there on the sideline all day long. All of a sudden your number gets called. Can you run out on that field and be a monster and affect that game? And we see Malik Heath do it time and time again.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, man. Look at Holmes MD1. Knock it off with the rocket balls, Brett. Okay. And yes, Tim, that's what I meant. Appreciate you, Holmes. We got us a resident doctor.
You think God never farted?
It's awesome that we got a doctor in the chat. Now, we just got to take his word for it, right? We have no reason to think he's lying about that. But this could be some knucklehead in his mom's basement, pretending to be a doctor, right?
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
He is. That's all that matters, right? So let's see here. CJ Ian, crazy to think we could have 12 wins and be third in our division, 12-win team playing third-place teams in other divisions next year. See, that's the thing. Like, when you look at this comparison, if we are in year 1994 right now, right, we're already ahead of the curve. And then we come out in 95, right, they win 11-5. We're already at that mark, right? We already hit the 11 win. I know there's an extra game. I got you. There's a good chance we could finish with 12 wins, right? Yeah. We all acknowledge that if they take care of business against the Bears. If they win that game and they go with the 12 win, he's basically, Jordan is tracking in front of the Brett Favre led Packer teams. Now, I'm not saying that Jordan's playing better than Brett. Please hear me here. I'm just simply saying, what are our expectations if a certain portion of the fan base is down about us winning 12 games when Favre didn't win 12 games until 96 when they won the freaking Super Bowl? You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. That's what I'm running it through that filter. And I think the fact, Tim, too, that the NFC North is so strong this year and we're third place in the division is fueled a lot of that. If we were first place in the division right now and staring down our 12th win of the season, the vibe would be totally different.
Yep.
But look, that's the National Football League, man. They got two of the best teams in the NFC in your division, right? So,
absolutely. And regardless of how the season pans out, I think the NFC's got their best chance in recent memory to go ahead and dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs here if they do in fact make the Super Bowl again. I think we've got enough talent and good teams on the NFC side of the ball, if you will, that I think it'll look a little better than the Niners did last year. We'll just say it that way.
Yeah. And the other thing too is, like, when you're creating expectations for next year, you've got 62 million roughly, and it depends on which websites you look at. And you don't, again, I always say when you're talking salary cap, round it up or down 5 million, because there's that much cushion. There really is. Like, you can find $5 million against the cap in a blink of an eye. But when you look at the salary cap, 62 million, if they were to sign everyone that we're potentially not bringing back and they were on minimum contracts, we'd probably be somewhere around $40-some million next year. So understand that you've got holes to fill with that 62 million, and it's to the tune of like 30 players or something like that, right? Like, it's legit that much that you've got to replace. Now, it just so happens those were backup players, so you would think you'll get a good chunk of those back, as well as some of your futures, like Malik Heath. Who knows? You may look up next year and Malik Heath be on the active roster, right? Somebody like that. Ben Sims is another one that you got that luxury of potentially having on the practice squad or signing to a futures contract, albeit he's put a lot of tape out there. Tight end's kind of scarce in the NFL, in my opinion. It's hard to find them. I could see him getting swooped up too. So going into the offseason, you got to take that into consideration too. You're going to be able to reset a little bit, but you do got to decide, all right, how much of this roster do we want to re-sign next year? And let's, tally that up as well. The salary cap's going to continue to go up. NFL's king. We've talked about that. I mean, they're printing money right now too. So Ron Sample says, Clay, does the $62 million include any restructures? No, that's the thing. Like, that $62 million is if we brought Jair back on the contract he's on right now, right? So what we're going to do as soon as the season's over, Ron, I'm not trying to rush the season. I hope we last till February. But our first step in the offseason, you're going to see that playoff logo at the bottom switch to re-signing period, right? And restructure period. We're going to go through and do some research. I do it every year, and it's just to kind of test my skills at, like, hey, keeping myself honest. Like, you got to get good at this. You got to stay good at this. Typically, I'll give you 10 players that I think are primed for a restructure. And most of the time I can narrow it down to the 5 that they're going to restructure. We're probably going to have somewhere between 3 to 7 players that restructure a contract. We'll have a time frame. Here's when it happened last year. And all that is precedence of how Goody likes to operate, with his front office of, hey, we want these restructures to be done by this time, right? So that'll all come into play too. But yeah, that's, again, you've got holes to fill out your complete 53-man roster, and that's what's going to eat up a good chunk of that salary cap to fill the full roster. That's why I'm telling people we're seeing 62 million as the number getting thrown around, but plan on that being probably when we hit free agency. I think we'll look up and go, we got $45 million to spend, but you like to keep a $5 to $7 million surplus, although the Packers are never going to cut it that close. I think this year we were something like 12 million surplus, because you want that maneuverability in season to be able to sign players as people get hurt and work out the cap that way. So again, we'll get into all that, but yeah, that does not include any restructures. So and here's the thing, when you do those restructures, Ron, it might not be let's free up even more money to go spend this year. It might be let's free up money to absorb this hit for these extensions we're going to sign come training camp, because that's typically when Goody likes to re-sign these players on the last year of their contract. If they're going to get a second contract, albeit they're just entering the final year of the rookie deal, he'll do it kind of in camp or on the backside of camp. It seemed like most of the time he likes to do it as camp breaks. This player's got a new contract. We're ready to roll, right? That's precedent. So.
Sometimes you want to see how your guys are coming to camp, right? Mm-hmm. Not everybody shows up to camp the same way, right?
Yep. Sometimes
you get guys that are still in vacation mode when they roll into training camp. That's not the dude you want to give a bunch of money to right away.
Exactly.
Let's take a look at how the first few weeks of camp look.
It's huge. It's huge, man. And that's things that we don't. Just pay the guy. Okay. All right. And he comes in 15 pounds overweight, and you just gave him the bag. Good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah, everybody except for McMoney, right? Mr. McManus can get paid tomorrow, as far as I'm concerned.
McMoney needs a contract right now.
Yep.
I've seen it. I've seen enough. We're good. And I understand. This is the other thing. We're talking about proper expectations. I'm saying re-sign McManus right now, with the understanding too that he's not going to continue to kick at the percentage he's kicking at. That's going to come down. But again, gone are the days. If you sign him to a 2 or a 3 year extension, gone are the days for the next 2 years of us missing those chip shot field goals, right? Yeah. That's the thing. Even there's going to be some misses, but it's not going to be, we to the tune that we were dealing with. I bet Matt LaFleur was so damn frustrated. Honestly, Tim, the difference in record this year, at least a game or two, in my opinion, is because we had a solid kicker.
Yep.
We could very well be sitting here at 9 wins again and missing the playoffs this year because we lost a couple games with the kicker, right?
But we have to give credit to them for after, the Anders Carlson experience of last year, going into this season and seeing what happened. There was zero hesitation from our front office and our GM to get that right. That's why Brandon McManus is here. They knew that. We needed a reliable kicker, and it doesn't matter. Old dog, new rookie with a big leg, whatever. Bring someone that can hit 35-yard field goals without doinking them off the upright. And that's what we got, man. I just love the way he approaches the game, man. I've had a little experience myself as a kicker, and I just really, I appreciate his approach, man, and what he does. And he brings a solid foundation to our special teams unit. When you can rely on a guy's leg like that, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. So if we walk down history lane here, starting in 1973, right? 5 wins, 6 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, 4 wins, 8 wins, 5 wins, 5 wins, 8 wins. Now we're in the 80s. 5 wins, 8 wins, 8 wins, 8, 4, 5, 4. In 1989, they came out and shocked the world with 10 wins, right? And then it was back to 6 wins, 4 wins. And then in 92, when Brett came in and took over week 3, I think it was, against the Bengals, 9-7, 9-7, 9-7, 11-5, 13-3 Super Bowl champions, 13-3 lost in the Super Bowl, 11-5. Yeah, everybody says it. 11-5 in 98, and then in 99, 8-8, 9-7, and then in 01, Sherman took over in 2000, got them back to the 9-win mark, and then they went on that tear, right? 12 wins, 12 wins, 10 wins, 10 wins. Then back down to 4. That was McCarthy's, I think, first year. And then in 2006, they broke 500, 8-8. People forget this too, man.
Yep.
07, 13-3, right? Brett's last year in Green Bay had a great year. Obviously lost there in the conference championship to the Giants. Then in 2008, Aaron takes over. Aaron's first year, 6-10.
Yep.
But then immediately jumps to 11 wins, 10 wins, 15 wins, 11 wins, 8 wins. That was the injury year, I'm pretty sure, there in 2013. Then 12 wins, 10 wins, 10 wins. Now look at the Matt LaFleur era, guys. Just right off the bat, 2019, bang, 13, 13, 13, 8. Aaron's last year, broken thumb, receivers led the league in drops, youngest team in the league, right? 2023, First year with Jordan Love, 9-8, and then bang, we're up to 11, possibly 12 this year. So Matt LaFleur, man, again, I can't sing his praises enough. I can't. Now, are there things he needs to fix? Absolutely. And you guys know I've been very vocal. Got to stop being overly emotional on the sideline like that. Got to, because it does bleed into your – let me put it this way. Tim, I produce this show, right? I put the criteria together every day. Like I know exactly what we're going to do. Most of the time, you guys don't even know, do you? You're going, I don't know what the hell we're talking about today, right? So, imagine if those post-game shows, we log on 5 minutes before we go live, and I'm ranting and raving, throwing shit. But how's that going to bleed into everybody else?
Yeah,
right? That's the only fault I throw at Matt LaFleur's feet. And listen, you're in a good spot when the only fault you could throw at a coach's feet, or the biggest flaw, is one that he cares too much. That we can work with that, right?
Yeah, I'll take that, right? All day.
So, all right. So again, just wanted to kind of walk through the history there of the Packers and kind of what they had done over the years and compare it to where we're at as a team right now. Let's go back to Twitter real quick. I'm going to show you guys some stuff that we uncovered through Football Insights, just to kind of, again, if you look at Twitter, all of a sudden the pass rush sucks again and the coverage is bad. And most of that is inaccurate, right? When you go to EPA per drop back here, according to Football Insights, you can see the top defenses in the league right now through week 17, EPA per drop back. The Packers are third in the league at minus 0.01. So we have identified the passing defense. If you had to pick a weak spot on this defense, it's passing defense. And we're third in EPA per drop back. Now listen, EPA is not everything, just like PFF isn't everything, just like points per game isn't everything, and points per play and yards per play and all that. Take it all and put it into one thing, into one barrel. I think we are a top 10 passing defense, but if I had to pick a weak spot on the defense, I would say it is our passing defense. Do you agree with that or disagree with that, Tim, seeing how the run defense has played this year, man?
No, I agree. And it's tough to be great at both, right? Usually they kind of one tilts and balances the other. But yeah, no, it's not too crazy to think that. And then look at our pass defense. We're down linebackers, like our best coverage linebacker's been out for a few weeks. We're down a rookie phenom starting safety. It's not easy. We're shuffling guys around, not making excuses, just calling it like I see it. So I think it's very realistic to be on that side of the argument that, yeah, the coverages are not great. The pass defense has got room for improvement, but thank goodness we're playing so well against the run, because I've seen Packers teams that couldn't play against the pass and they couldn't stop the run. And it was really bad,
Yep. And that's where you gotta, you could probably comb through Twitter, and the same fans who are complaining about, the pass defense this past week were the same ones complaining about the run defense 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
Like it's just, picking and choosing when you want to complain with what you want to complain about. I've been as guilty as anyone too there in that regard. But Nick McSwain in the chat says, people are complaining about the team, but they've gotten better this year. NFL is about getting progressively better. It won't all come at once. If the trend continues, they'll be better next year. And that's the whole purpose of this show today, was just to kind of go, okay, am I missing something? Am I taking crazy pills here? Because I feel like this team is better this year than they were last year.
Yep.
And lo and behold, that was true. Your win total is going up. Your takeaways went through the roof on defense. Your run defense got better. Your passing game and your running game has been top 10 all year long. You've legit got a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. Some would argue a top 5 in both of those categories. I feel like the defense is top 10, but just outside of that top 5 when you take everything into consideration. But nonetheless, man, what's cool is you don't go into this offseason and go, this is a definite glaring need, right?
Right.
We combed through and really took time, and we feel like you need a true dominant 3-tech that would really set this defense to the next level. And I think, to me, that's how you improve the passing game, the passing defense. If the passing defense is the weak spot, when you take everything into consideration, give me a 3-tech that's going to dominate in the trenches. Now, listen, they're hard to find, and you're going to have to allocate some resources to do that. But it's too early to look at free agency. We're going to do that as soon as the season's over, and we're going to shop through and try to find the Xavier McKinney on the defensive line, because this is what we did last year, and it's like X is the dude. And I'm telling you, I was as surprised as anyone when they signed him. But that first day of free agency last year, Tim, was probably my favorite day podcasting. That was such a blast. keeping up with free agency frenzy and them signing Xavier. And they wasted no time. It was.
Remember when we were like, wouldn't that be great if we could get a guy like Xavier McKinney? And then we all kind of were like, yeah, but I don't. Yeah, yeah. And then boom, Goody, you beautiful bastard, you.
And as we got closer to free agency, the one thing we did uncover is like, all right, let's look at precedent. What has he done before? Yeah, actually, he was very aggressive in free agency. He went and got 2 edge defenders, and he got Adrian Amos, right?
Yeah, but if you talk to some of the fan base, they go, we don't ever do anything in free agency.
It's so true. It's so true. People still say that Ted Thompson refused to sign free agents. I'm going, boy, y'all were not keeping up.
Yeah, pay attention.
Yeah, if your argument is Ted Thompson did not overpay in free agency, you're correct. But that's not a negative, right? So Goody's cut from the same cloth. Some would argue Goody's a little more aggressive than Ted. I think I would agree with that too, which is cool. So again, pass defense, you're going to see some people out there pretending as if it's absolutely horrible. I mean, the DB conversation blew up. That's why we did the show yesterday to go, all right, let's deep dive. Everybody's getting loud that these DBs aren't good enough. We need a corner. We need a corner. We need a corner. And then you comb through and you go, I'll be damned, Carrington Valentine's a top 20 cornerback this year. Look at there, boys. That's kind of cool, right? And Nixon has held his own. Some would say he's a top 32 corner. You got to get more depth at the slot position. So I'm okay with going out. These are the two things I'm okay with Goody going out and spending money in free agency. Let's say we do end up with $40 million that we can throw around, right? If that's the case, go get me the best slot corner on the market so you can play Keyshawn outside. If let's say Ja restructures and then the injuries nag along like David Bakhtiari's did, then you've got your backup plan and you're in good shape. You're a lot deeper at that corner. And here's the other thing that's great, competition in camp. Right. Yeah. Let these guys battle it out to see who wins those spots. So,
and then also knowing in the back of your mind that in a pinch, Keyshawn can go back to the slot. Worst case scenario, we prefer him on the boundary, but we know he can play in the slot as well. So versatility helps.
And that's the thing. Like a lot of the talk too, the chatter that I seen on Twitter was, why don't we need to go get a solid edge defender? Okay, you can do that. Go get you another solid edge defender. But if you're not pressing the center of the pocket, and Jeff Hafley's calling his defense, like we've proven time and time and time again this year, guys, it'll be a 4-man rush, and there's only 3 going after the quarterback because you're running that touch spy. Okay, you do that, then just keep in mind you're not going to get that center push on that pocket when you do turn those guys loose, because if at this point we expect our interior defensive linemen to be elite, we're kidding ourselves. We're living in denial. They have not proven that. They show flashes of greatness. There's no doubt about that, both Kenny and Wyatt. To me, I have more faith in Carl Brooks than anyone else on that defensive line, just kind of based off what I've seen. Now, we show PFF on here a lot. If you go look at PFF grade for Carl Brooks, you go, Clayton, what the hell are you smoking? PFF isn't everything. You've got to look at the tape. You've got to look at those specific downs and go, okay, who's actually making the play? I mean, who blocked the PAT this year to beat the Bears? That was Carl Brooks, right? Last week, who got the only sack of the game? That was Carl Brooks. So, and it doesn't mean Carl is our 3-tech. It doesn't. It means he checks some of the boxes and he has not reached his potential yet. So you continue to go looking for that dominant 3-tech. I promise you this. If you go out this free agency and you say, here's what I'm going to key in on. I'm going to go try to find the best 3-tech that's on the market. And I'm going to find the best slot corner that's on the market, and that's what we're going to spend our $40 million on. You're not going to come back at the halfway point of the year and go, boy, we just got too many defensive tackles. These guys, we're too good in the middle. You're not going to say that because they're going to get banged up, and teams are going to catch on, and you need to have those guys that's going to get creative when the season's on the line there in the second half. So, and on offense, as a group, right, having the poll questions up the last few days and getting our listeners and viewers to vote on it, here's the 4 needs that we're coming up with consistently across the board from the fan base. We're saying defensive tackle and corner, offensive line, and wide receiver. Now, when you see wide receiver, some people scratch their heads there. Well, what did we uncover today? We're 4th in drops. Like, we're pretty bad at dropping the ball. So if you go out and you try to add someone to the wide receiver room, that could help that, right? And, like Devontae Adams keeps getting thrown around. Guys, I don't think there's a snowball chance in hell that Devontae Adams comes back and plays for the Packers. So hear me out clearly. if he ends up signing with the Packers, somebody clip that. This happened on January 2nd, all right? And we'll play it over and over because I will be happy as a possum in a dumpster if that's the case, I promise you. But if you go get someone like Tay who's sure-handed, and I don't even know what his drop rate is. What's his drop rate be higher than Jaden Reed's? We don't even know it, right? But if you go get someone like that to kind of button that up and add some veteran leadership and a little bit of more stability in the wide receiver room, that could fix that problem that the fans seem to think we have. Of all of these needs here, O-line, wide receiver, defensive tackle, cornerback, wide receiver is the least of my worries, in my opinion.
Yep, I agree.
So if we were to rank them, I would say D tackle, that 3-tech 1, that slot corner 2, offensive line, specifically interior offensive line 3, and then wide receiver 4 is how I would grade those out.
I'm right there with you. Right there with you.
So it's going to be a fun offseason, no doubt, man. Now, here's what's cool. You're playing the Bears this week, and we'll shift gears into that now here in just a second. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything on Twitter. You're playing the Bears this week, and then you're going into the playoffs, and here's where you really want to focus on those positions in the playoffs and go, okay, on our team, do we have those pieces or not? If you see slot corner emerge as a problem, right? If you see, like, in the playoffs, Evan Williams hopefully will be back. Like I said, Tim got me kind of worried now. He's like, are we sure he's coming back? I'm going, oh, crap. I was thinking he was coming back. Is he not going to be back for the playoffs? Nobody said anything. So, Tim, that was good on your part bringing that up, right?
Yeah, we haven't heard anything officially, but I'm assuming that's why he's been held out, right? We're holding out for hopefully playoff ball here.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, if Evan Williams is on the field, and let's say you bring Zane Anderson back as the backup, and listen, you got to tip your cap to Goody and this coaching staff. There isn't a fan on God's green earth that roots for the Packers that was saying Zane Anderson is an unsung hero. No one. We were laughing, going, is he a real person? Is he even on the roster? And then he comes out and plays like he did. It's like, boy, they knew. Hashtag Goody knew, right?
Another one of Bisaccia's guys, too. For as much heat as the fan base has given Coach B, I mean, Zane's on this team because of Bisaccia. And I even made the comment earlier in the year when we were talking about the safety room and we were so excited to have Bullard and Williams and, Xavier McKinney back there. And I even made the comment like, yeah, I don't see Zane Anderson playing too many defensive snaps. He's mostly a special teams guy. And here we are late in the season and this guy's playing some meaningful reps for us and playing really well. So I hope Zane's back on the field real soon, man. Really do.
Yeah, I do too, man. So, again, if you got that under control, and Bullard is going to have ups and downs as a young player, we know we haven't seen his ceiling yet. I think we're pretty close to seeing his floor. Continue working him in the slot position, and you've got a guy who can fill in at safety. There's a little bit of value there. Then let's go get us a slot corner in the offseason. So, for me, like I said, 3-tech is the top priority, slot corner second, interior offensive line third, and then wide receiver 4th. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. Now, if Ja comes back next year and Keyshawn kicks to the slot, right, if that happens, and Bullard is just your backup safety, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. Carrington Ballantyne and Jair on the outside, that sounds lovely if Ja is healthy. You know what I mean? So that's definitely an option too. All that, these needs are going to get adjusted as we figure out, is Ja going to be on the roster next year? Who's getting brought back, all those things. We'll do a final adjustment as we go into free agency frenzy for sure. So one thing I want to say about Jordan Love, this was cool. Football Insights put this out. Sack avoidance and drop back EPA. So I'm going to click on the image here. I'm going to try to explain for those of you on the pod what we're seeing here. It's the chart, pressures, the sack ratio is running from left to right. EPA per drop back is running from the bottom to the top. And you'll notice that upper right quadrant is showing you, all right, who has got a solid EPA per drop back above that line there, as well as pressure to sack rate, meaning they get pressure, but they don't take sacks. And here are the quarterbacks, and I'm going to try to list them in what I think is probably the most important order here. You're going to say probably Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen up here at the top. They are kind of the two elites right now. They are just unbelievable, right, at both avoiding sacks and EPA per drop back. Jared Goff is really good at EPA per drop back, but he's a little bit closer to mediocre when it comes to sack avoidance, right? And then if you go to the far right on down, Derek Carr, really, really good at avoiding sacks when he's being pressured. His EPA per drop back is a little closer to the median line. And then Jordan Love's right there with Derek Carr. So what Jordan Love's been able to do this year in avoiding sacks. Now, in my opinion, there's a little bit of information missing here because it doesn't show you how long it is in the time that he receives the pressure, right? And I'm not saying one way or the other. I don't have the information. I'm just simply saying I don't want to mislead anybody. This could be he drops back, he's got 3.5 seconds to survey, then he scrambles and he's avoiding a sack. That's important information, right? But nonetheless, it's cool to see him in this upper right quadrant here. So the quarterbacks that are in this quadrant, just to kind of give you an idea of here are the players who are avoiding sacks, and that's an important stat.
Especially for Jordan in his second year as a starter, because we saw him last year standing in that pocket getting eviscerated, and we saw strip sacks and we saw, crazy things happening, and you can tell that was a point of emphasis. Have better pocket awareness and pocket presence to be able to slip out of there. We see him do it this year. 2 hands on the football, hitching, moving your feet, stepping up and out, getting a throw off, extending that pocket. That's what we want, man.
And one of the points of this graphic by @football_insights on Twitter was look at Caleb Williams. You look at Caleb Williams' touchdown to interception ratio, you go, oh, he's having a hell of a rookie year, right? And the Caleb Williams stands they're gonna stand. That's what they do, right? But look at where he's at on this chart. There's only one player, in my opinion, that's worse than him in a combination statistic of EPA per drop back and pressure to sack ratio is Will Levis. Like, look at the names that are around Jordan Love. Let me do it this way. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Derek Carr, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Matthew Stafford. Those are the guys in that quadrant. Now listen to the guys in the quadrant of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, Will Levis, Gardner Minshew, Jameis Winston, C.J. Stroud, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, the old Aaron Rodgers. They can't hardly move anymore, right? Drake May, another rookie, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, Geno Smith. Which group would you rather be in, with Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Brock Purdy, Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, those guys, or your Will Levis's, Gardner Minshew, Jameis Winston, C.J. Stroud, Joe Flacco?
I think I'd rather be in the group that consists of, guys that were in the MVP conversation. I'll prefer to be in that group.
Exactly. So I just wanted to point that out, that like what Jordan's doing avoiding sacks. And here's the thing, guys, he messed his MCL up this season. Like, that happened this season. He has not had a chance to rest that MCL since he came back from that injury. And oh, by the way, it wasn't like he came back from the injury and he's healthy. He came back with a freaking brace on and was limping all over the field. And there were still fans during that game going, well, he's not hurt. If he's hurt, he shouldn't be out there. Okay, say that now. Those same fans are bitching and moaning about Jair Alexander.
That's right. That's right.
So you can't have it both ways.
You can't. You want to be a hypocrite, go be a Bears fan.
Right. There's plenty of room out there. I promise you. They got plenty of room in that family. So, again, just wanted to point that out, that came across the wire, and that caught my attention there a little bit. Wanted to hit on it. Now, let's do this. Let's shift gears and go to NFL Pro, and we may watch a little tape here. I doubt it. We're kind of up against the gun. We got 7 minutes. I want to give us an early you know what? Let's save that for tonight. Let's save the NFL Pro stuff for tonight. And let's go to the PFF preview of this Packers-Bears game, give you guys an idea of where the line is. We do this every week, not because we're gambling degenerates, although I can be one from time to time. All right?
Here's the guy.
But I just want to kind of show you guys exactly what we're looking at from the Vegas standpoint of how they're seeing this Chicago game stack up. I don't know why I can't get this to go full screen all of a sudden. It usually fills it all the way in. Here we go. Looky there. Looky there. All right, so
tech genius right here. I love it.
Oh my God, boys! Let me tell you something. With all the conversation of the world may end any day now, Tim. If you go on social media, you think that was true. If it ever does happen, I'm going to thrive because I'm going straight back to the mountains. That's where I'm going to, because this tech stuff is not for me. It is not for me.
Send me the latitude and longitude locations so that I'll meet you there, brother.
We'll do. We got about 200 acres on top of a mountain that's controlled by a biker gang. We're good to go. I promise you.
Love it.
So, anyway, January 5th, kickoff, 1 o'clock there at Lambeau. Of course, that's 12 Central Lambeau time. 14 degrees with broken clouds. So it looks like there's almost 0% chance of snow, but it's going to be colder than a well digger's booty. That's going to happen, I promise you. Running game, right? Let's lean on the run. Listen, the Bears defense is solid, guys. They held Seattle to 9 points.
Yep. Run the ball and play action. Run, play action. Run, play action. That's how we got to go.
Exactly. And the one thing that Caleb Williams has done well this year is he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. Now, he'll take a bunch of sacks. What he's doing is taking sacks, punting it, letting his defense win some field position, and then it seems like almost every game they're in it. At least it feels that way. I could be wrong. But here is how it sits right now from the Vegas line. Let's go power ranking first. We'll go team metrics. We'll rattle through this real quick, and we may recap this a little later in the day when we do the night show. But the Packers' overall power ranking is 7th. The Bears are 24th. Their defensive power rankings 13th. The Packers is 10th. So PFF seems to think that the Packers are better on defense than the Bears. I would have to push back on that, but I hope it's true, and maybe it'll prove to be true here on Sunday. The Packers' offensive power ranking is not Caleb Williams, and the most prepared offense in the history of the NFL for a rookie quarterback. It's set up for – there's never been an offense, Tim, put together that's more prepared to succeed than this one that they're dropping Caleb Williams into this year. They're 23rd, okay? Perfect drop. Strength of schedule played, the Packers have played the 6th strongest schedule according to PFF. The Bears have played the 12th. Average offensive snaps, they're averaging 68 snaps a game. We're averaging 65. Percentage of run plays, look at this, is just absolutely wild. The Packers run the ball 47.7% of the time. They only pass 52.3% of the time. The Bears are passing 65.8% of the time. That is just a recipe for disaster for a rookie quarterback who doesn't know how to not take a sack.
This is what I was talking about with the balance in your attack, where you're never going to be 50-50. You may get close sometimes. You're always going to lean slightly one way or the other. But when you have those gigantic swings, 65 and 34%, I mean, think about our defense. Like, do we even, we talk about how well we've played against the run. I mean, here's a game right now to put some pressure on that pass defense, and let's see if they can, I'm not saying sell out to the pass,
right,
but we know this team wants to throw the ball. So right. we got to think that's going to come into the fold with our game planning here. But that's what I like so much about what we've been doing, basically, since week 4 or 5 of the season this year, is Matt kind of leaned into that run game, and we, we're still passing more than we throw, but not by that much.
Right. Definitely. So EPA per run, the Packers are at minus 0.03. The Bears are at minus 0.14. And then EPA per pass, the Packers are at a positive 0.17. The Bears are at a negative 0.06. So pretty much everything across the board there, they're giving the edge to the Green Bay Packers over the Bears, and I think rightfully so.
So to recap it in a nutshell,
the Bears still suck.
I think that's a fair assessment, Tim. I do. The spread, the Packers are currently 10-point favorites. You see how the line opened up here, and you look at the market. We opened up as 9-point favorites, then it went to 9.5. It came back to 9, and now it's settling in at 10 as we are obviously in, Thursday. So it'll probably stay at 10, I would imagine. There's a chance it might go back to 9.5. I'd be surprised if it goes to 10.5 or higher. So the Packers are 10-point favorites. PFF has it a little closer than that at 9.2 point favorites there. So where's the money at? 84% of the money against the spread is on the Packers, and 81% of the slips, the overall bets, are on the Packers. On the money line aspect, the Packers are minus 487, so the juice is on the Bears at 373. And then, again, this is just to win outright in the game. 94% of the money is on the Packers to win. 96% of the tickets, slips, the bets are on the Packers to beat the Bears. The over-under is currently set at 41. The PFF projection is at 41.8 as it sits right now. And obviously the public is all over the over. Money-wise, 75% of the money's on the over, and 82% of the bets are on the over. So that's your early PFF preview of Packers-Bears. Anything you want to add to these gambling degenerates out here, Tim? Looking at
I think you covered it, man. That's not my wheelhouse, but it's good to see the numbers here. Yeah. Smart money's on the Packers.
Yeah, and just to kind of recap too what we've seen this year with the Packers and the line. Let's see, is that I'm trying to see if they've actually got the spread, if that's the spread or what. Yeah. So the spread going into the games here, right? Starting in week 1, we were, let's see here. What is going on right here? Oh, it's the Bears. I was like, that does not look like our record. What are we doing? That makes sense. All right. Yeah. So this is how the spread has been for the Packers. Just a quick recap of the year. At Philly, we were 1.5-point underdogs. We lost that game by 5 points. So a 1-score game against Philly in week 1. Week 2 against the Colts, we were 2.5-point underdogs. We won by 6 points. Week 3, we were 3-point underdogs on the road against the Titans. We won by 16 points.
Belt to ass.
Week 4, we were 2.5-point favorites. We lost the game by 2 points. Look at that line right there. Holy cow, man. That's crazy. Week 5, we were 3-point favorites over the Rams. We beat them by 5 points. We covered the spread there. Week 6, we were 5.5-point favorites over the Cardinals. We beat them by, 16 points, if I'm looking at that right, I think. Yeah, maybe. No. What am I talking about here, Tim? Yeah, 15, 16. I think it's a 16-point win. We covered the spread at 5.5. I promise you that. All right. 24-22. There against Houston, we were 3-point favorites. We end up losing. We end up, not covering the spread, but we won the game there only by 2 points. We were 3.5-point favorites against the Jaguars. We beat them by 3 points. We were, let's see here, against the Lions, we were 2.5-point underdogs. We lost by 10 points. Then we were 6-point favorites against the Bears. We only beat them by a point. We were 6.5-point favorites against the 49ers. It's just wild to think how far the Niners have fallen, man. That's just nuts to me. But we obviously beat them very easily, 38-10. We were 3.5-point favorites over the Dolphins. We beat them very easily, by 13 points, if I'm looking at that right. We were 3-point underdogs to the Lions. We lost by 3 points, so that was a push against the spread. And then week 15 against the Seattle Seahawks, we were 3-point favorites. We beat the brakes off of them. Week 16, we were 14-point favorites against the Saints, and boys, we beat them 34-0. Like, that's more than covered there. And then, of course, against the Vikings last week, we were half-point underdogs according to the final line here on PFF, and we lost by 2 points. So, man, these losses, I know it was the great teams, and the argument, Tim, has been we can't beat a good team. We can't beat a good team, but I'll be damned if we're not in every one of these games. With the exception of the Lions game, you lose by 10 points there in week 9. I can see how people say that wasn't close. I got you. But, and now, of course, we're 10-point favorites against the Bears. So against the spread, it doesn't tally it up, but we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 wins this year. So, against the spread. So the Packers have pretty much dominated against the spread this year if you are a gambling degenerate. We spent way too much time on that, but I just want to hit on it for you. So, that's it. We're up against the gun. Tim, parting thoughts. Anything else you want to add? I know we're going to do a show tonight. If you're available, love to have you. We'll be going live at 7 p.m. Central, and we'll continue to break this down a little bit more. I want to get into some of the Carrington Valentine tape and look at some of his run defense, things he's done in the run stops. We noticed that last time. I could hit on some of those plays. And, of course, we'll continue to break down the injury report as we'll get another one today. You have the floor there, Bo.
Yeah, no, I think we just need to keep in mind that, as much crap as we give the Bears and their fan base and their general management and their coaching and their players, this team's juiced up to come play the Packers, man. Like I said, this is their Super Bowl. So as fans, I don't think we should take them lightly. Obviously, we don't fear them, but I could really see this being one of those games that could get away from us if we're not careful. So keep that in mind going into Bears week. They do suck, but you can't take any opponent for granted in the NFL.
No, you can't, man. You can't. And again, this is, like you said, Tim, this is their Super Bowl. So got to come out ready to play. And look, I think it'll be cool. Let's get the best Bears. One thing we will all agree with is we're going to be playing one of the best defenses in the league come Sunday.
Yep, that's right.
That'll be a good little primer for the playoffs for our offense, win or lose. Like, get a real good, just all right, let's get in playoff form right now. Let's go.
Absolutely.
So, all right, guys, that's it. We're out of here. Appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We'll see you tonight, 7 p.m. Central for PTA Live. Again, shout out to Josh Valanningham becoming a new member here on YouTube, and shout out to all of our new Patreon members. If you guys want to join that, just go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Got an awesome community that we're creating in there. And what's awesome about it has nothing to do with us. It's just everybody in there. You want to talk about one of the most respectful chats. If you want to get away from the toxicity that's out there in the world right now, you join that Patreon group. And if you're a member of one of the three tiers, you can be the cheapest one. It's totally cool, a couple bucks a month, whatever it is. I don't even know the price on it, to be honest with you. Then that'll get you entered into the giveaways, which we are still looking for. A couple of listeners. I know I got them wrote down. John Smith. I haven't heard from John Smith. I haven't heard from Bucks Rays Bolts, and I haven't heard from ANDRA Circled C SMX. Okay.
Who?
So if that is you, please, please, please reach out. I'm going to comb through Patreon and just make sure none of these three are in Patreon. If they are, I can send a DM. But first place winner was John Smith. If he doesn't come forward, it'd be Bucks Rays Bolts. If he don't come forward, it'd be the Andre person. So that was for an autographed Dorsey Levens jersey. This week we'll be doing another giveaway. I'll announce that here in a couple of days, what we're going to give away. If we don't hear from these guys, we're going to redo it for the Dorsey Levens jersey as well. So just keep that in mind. Tim, thank you for your time, buddy. We'll talk to you tonight.
Thanks, Clay. See you tonight.
All right, everybody have a great night, great day, whatever time it is. I might go take a nap.
There we go.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.